Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
County Fairgrounds here. Do I have the one and the only Kenny Ahern on the phone with me?
You do. I'm glad that we're able to connect.
Okay, Kenny. So you're a comedian, but you do some different kinds of comedy. First off, how long have you been a comedian?
I'm actually coming into my 40th year of performing full-time in the entertainment business.
Okay. So do you want to tell the audience how you got started doing this?
I attended Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College in 1983, and following graduating from the program, I didn't get a contract right away, and I went to work for a theme park called Circus World in Haines City, Florida. And I was there for a little over a year, and an opening came up on the Blue Unit with the Greatest Show on Earth, and I ended up going and signing my first contract in 1985 with Ringling Brothers Circus on April Fool's Day, and I toured with them for 5 years. So that's really where my roots are in the circus.
Okay. Have you ever done anything else?
As far as performing, I've done quite a bit since I left the circus. I've done a lot of touring overseas and all throughout the United States. I've performed in every state other than Hawaii. And for me, ever since I graduated from clown college, I've pretty much been a full-time entertainer. Now, of course, there's downtimes, particularly in the past couple of years, and you always try to find side jobs that can help you with your work around what you're doing. And I certainly had my share of those side jobs.
Okay, but I mean, when you got out of high school when you were a kid, is this where you saw your life going?
No, it was a teacher's fault. I was in a community college in Woodbridge, Virginia, and the English professor knew that I had an interest in clowning, and he brought up that Ringling Brothers had a clown college, which I had no idea existed, and he suggested I go and audition for that clown college and write a paper about it, and that's exactly what I did, and that was just a few years out of high school. And I went and auditioned. That was in Washington, D.C. I auditioned on April 1st, 1983, and I just was totally uninhibited, had a great time because I really didn't think I had any chance of getting into the program because it was so competitive. And I think probably the fact that I was so open-minded and relaxed helped me get accepted to clown college.
Okay, I always ask this question. What did your parents think of this?
I am very fortunate, and actually many of my friends that have, gone into the career of performing, kind of have the same story. My parents were very supportive, so much so that in order for me to go to clown college, I didn't raise enough money to go to the program. My parents bought my 1968 VW Bug from me and sold it at a loss, and that enabled me to go to clown college. So yes, my parents, super, super supportive throughout my career. They were always came out and saw me as I toured for the 5 years while I was on the road. And then after going to the circus, they've been great supporters and have seen me perform, all over the United States.
So are you a married man, Mr. Kenny?
I am. I met my wife while I was touring with the circus, and we were married in 1990. Her name is Brenda, formerly Brenda Johnson, Brenda Ahern now, and we were married in 1990. We have two grown children, adults now. One is a civil engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota, and then our daughter works for a pretty well-known marketing firm in Chicago, and she's a marketing guru. So neither of them went into the business, which was maybe a little bit of a relief.
What does your wife think of this?
Well, my wife, fortunately, we met as clowns with the circus, And so she knew what she was getting into when we left the show. Prior to going to clown college and touring with the circus, she was a school teacher. And once we got off the road, we settled in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and she became a teacher. And a matter of fact, she just graduated after 33 years of teaching this past June.
Okay. So she's going to keep teaching?
She's retired. She's actually not working right now, kind of taking a sabbatical, trying to figure out what she wants to do. And it's been a great opportunity for us to be together because she's traveling with me. And we just spent a month in Florida, me doing shows and her enjoying the Florida sunshine while we were away from many inches of snow falling in Wisconsin.
I always like to ask you guys, you have good experiences, you have bad experiences. You want to talk about some of the bad ones? Have you ever considered quitting?
Honestly, I can honestly say no. I've never thought about quitting. I think I get this question a lot, and especially now that I'm older, people always ask, are you ready to retire? And it's, for me, I don't see that ever happening for as long as I have a passion and enjoy what I'm doing, and as long as I'm physically able to do so. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, sometimes there were shows that didn't go the way that I wanted them to. And then, I might have muttered under my breath, think of the check, and just get through the show. And that's inevitable. It's a numbers game. I've done thousands of shows throughout my career, and I can say that a majority of them, went okay. And some of them were just completely awesome. And those awesome shows are the ones that I kind of stick to remembering whenever I have a show that maybe doesn't go the way that I hoped.
Do you have any favorite experiences you'd like to share?
For me, I'm a silent performer, which is unusual, particularly performing on the fair and festival circuits because of, how busy a fair is. But I've kind of found my own little niche doing my show and performing at fairs. One of the things that also helps me is that since I don't talk, it enables me to perform all over the world because I don't have to learn a language. So I've had some great opportunities touring overseas, and those have been very, very special to me. One particular contract that I had for almost a decade was going anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year performing in Singapore, doing different tours and artisan residencies at schools. Those are all wonderful opportunities for me. Right now, you really have to be diversified now, being an entertainer. At one time, you could pick one market and do that market, and you could pretty much settle on that you could make your living that way. For me, I have to be very diversified. I find myself from usually June until October, and sometimes during the winter, I'm touring to fairs and festivals all over the United States. The rest of the time during the year, I also tour a one-man theater show that I tour in theaters all over the United States. You'll find me doing school shows, corporate events, enough. It's all, I'm doing the same thing, but just providing it into different venues.
Okay, so you're a physical comedian. Do you want to explain what that is?
Well, I think the best way to explain it is to give examples of who my inspiration is with my performance. Dick Van Dyke, Red Skelton, Mr. Bean, Tom and Jerry, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton. It's communicating with your body to get a laugh. And, kind of what I do is I communicate with my audience through how I react with my body. And oftentimes it's very physical, whether I'm going to be standing on one foot on top of a ladder juggling, or if I'm going to be playing the soprano saxophone while I'm balanced on top of a rolling globe, or taking, the occasional fall, with my performance to get a laugh from the audience. Now, I'll be honest, as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned, to be very, to conserve my energy and get the highest point from my physical comedy. Whereas when I was younger, I just had a tendency to fall down a lot and be a little wacky and wild. And now that I'm 60 years old, I'm kind of now suffering from my indulgent youth with physical comedy. So now I definitely have it to when I perform. I think people are still surprised at my age that I'm doing the type of physical comedy that I do. But it's definitely a lot less than when I first started, 40 years ago.
So what do your kids think of this?
It's all they've known. They grew up with their dad, being a clown. I started with the red clown nose, baggy pants, clown shoes, wig. I started with that in 1997. I switched over doing more of a Chaplin-esque Buster Keaton styled character with no makeup. And, my worry was always that, that they wouldn't think that I was cool and that maybe they might get teased, by their friends throughout school. But there's not too many, dads out there that can balance an 8-foot ladder on their chin. And that was kind of a cool thing to all the kids' friends.
Okay. So do you want to share some of your most favorite experiences?
I've had a lot of wonderful experiences. Some of my highlights include I did a tour of Eastern Europe in early 90s, and I was able to perform at the Moscow Circus School, and that was a big thrill for me because as far as contemporary clowning in the United States, a lot of influence came out of that school, and the fact that I got to perform there for the students and staff was just a huge honor for me. And then also the other, opportunities that I had to perform all over Eastern Europe and Poland and Hungary, that was a great opportunity for me as well. I think, for me, I've been very fortunate that that what I do has taken me, all over the world and given me a lot of wonderful experiences. And honestly, it's really hard for me just to, to pick out just one, because there's lots of great opportunities traveling with Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus back in its heyday and, performing at Madison Square Garden. I've also had the opportunity to perform at some very beautiful theaters all around the world. And then the fairgrounds that I tour with my own stage. I actually have a stage that I set up on the fairgrounds, and the majority of the fairs that I perform at now, I perform with my stage. On occasion, I do perform on the free stages at other fairs. So I've had a lot of great opportunities and some longevity. I've performed at the Wisconsin State Fair now. I believe I'm going on my 22nd year. I've had the opportunity to perform at the Porter County Fair in Valparaiso, Indiana. I performed there for 18 years, and after a break, I've booked back to come back in 2024. So for me, I found that in the fair market, relationships are really important, not just with the audiences, but also with the people that manage the fairs. And that's been something that's been very rewarding for me, because now I can say that, people that bring me to a fair are not only the people that hire me to bring me there, but they become my friends. And I think that's something that's very unique to the fair market.
Are you in really good physical shape for a 60-year-old?
I believe that I am. It gets harder and harder to stay in shape as you get older. And for me, I was very fortunate that for many, many years, just performing and the amount of performing that I did enabled me to stay in really good shape. Well, that's not the case so much now. So I've had to, learn to really actually have to get out there and outside of my show, watch my diet and make sure I get out and walk, and I do stretching and, really focus on keeping flexibility, because that's, I think, for everything that I do, being flexible is really important. So now I'm just now starting to get into yoga, and that's something that I never really did before. I kind of played around with it early, but now that's something I'm going to start doing. And I just really do a lot of my own little warming up to keep my bones and everything and muscles, going. And But, it definitely, all this physical work all these years has taken its toll. So I work with a physical therapist trainer that I work with. I just got off the road in Florida where I just did 50 shows. So the next 3 weeks, once a week, I'm meeting with my physical therapist to have her work my body over and get all the kinks out and get everything working. That's not something that I had to do on a regular basis in my youth.
Is there some place you would like to perform that you've not had the opportunity?
I think right now there are a couple of one-ring circuses that I would love to go back and visit my circus roots and actually perform in a circus. As far as fairs are concerned, I think everyone has their big list of fairs that they want to do. Of course, many people would want to, work for the Great Texas State Fair, and another one is the Big E up in the Northeast. Those are fairs that you really look at that you hope you have the opportunity. And I'd love to go back and perform at the Iowa State Fair, which is just an awesome fair, and I performed there quite a few years ago.
Okay, all right. Well, you don't do your own booking, do you?
No, I actually am represented by GL Berg Entertainment out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been represented by them for almost 25 years, and it's been a wonderful relationship. One of the most unique things about GL Berg Entertainment is that it's a family-run company with family values. There's no room for egos with entertainers within that roster. So the people that they do bring on, they're pretty selective, and I'm very fortunate to be one of those acts, that's been a part of it with the agency for so many years.
Okay, so how do people reach them?
You can just go to glberg.com.
Okay.
And that's a great place. And then you can also check out me, which all my stuff with fairs and festivals links to the GL Berg website, and you can go to my website at kennyahern.com.
And where will you be performing this year?
This year coming up right now, I'm going to be at the Kansas State Fair. I'll be at the Minnesota State Fair. I'll be at the Wisconsin State Fair. I'm also debuting a brand new show in Menominee, Wisconsin at the Mabel Tainter Theater on July 16th. I'll be working with a good friend of mine, George Maurer, and we're taking a show on tour that's going to be reminiscent of the old silent film days, where I'm taking my show on stage, and George, who's a composer and outstanding musician, is going to be playing theater organ during my performance. There's a lot of theaters all over the United States that have old theater organs, and instead of playing for a movie, I'm actually going to be performing on stage. We're calling it A Silent Film Comes to Life, which really does kind of describe what I do in general, even at fairs.
And how long usually are your shows?
For the fairs, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. It depends on how many shows I do during the day. I find in fairs 30 minutes is a really good length of time. Typically, I'll do 3 30-minute shows a day. Sometimes if it's during the school year, they'll have me do 2 shows during the day and during the weekdays, and on the weekend I'll do more shows, anywhere from 3 to 4 shows a day. My theater show actually is an 80-minute theater show, and that's a fun show to do. Really, my fair show is snippets of what that theater show is. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. I get to perform outside for fair audiences, and then I also get to perform indoors for theater audiences.
And what theaters have you performed at?
Theater-wise, I've actually performed all over the world. In the United States, I've performed at many theaters all throughout the Midwest. I've been at the Disney Ballroom in Anaheim, Florida. I performed at premier theaters in Singapore. Many theaters that I've had the opportunity to perform in have been theaters that have been very gracious, bringing me in and allowing me to share my type of family entertainment And it's a joy for me to do that.
Okay, Kenny, I've enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure everybody will love the interview. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that we connected, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.